Hello, folks. Alex Rodriguez here with Bay Cities Construction, and you are watching the Bay Cities Construction Show, live from our beautiful new studios in Torrance, California. Tonight, folks, we're going to be talking about the balcony inspection laws that are going to affect you here in California. We're going to talk about how these two laws impact you, and what entities, what configuration buildings are affected. We're also going to be talking about what elevated elements are. That's a nifty little engineering term. But basically, they're balconies that are up in the air. We're going to talk about that. And of course, we're going to have Alex's Trivia Corner with a gift to the winner of our trivia question. We're talking about SB721 and SB326. These are commonly known as the balcony laws of California, signed into law by the Honorable Governor Jerry Brown back in 2018. So there's a couple of mandates that are going to go into effect, and these are things you should be aware of. The inspections only affect exterior balconies or catwalks, commonly known as catwalks, that are elevated higher than 6 feet or so, and basically that's the height that most engineers consider to be dangerous if you fall. So this was all enacted due to the balcony collapse back in 2015 in Berkeley, California. This is a common picture seen on various media outlets about a balcony that actually fell. Quite a few people, 13 people fell, 6 people died. And I think it was like the third or fourth story of that building. And this is a newer building, but it was all caused by water leaking and then rotting out the cantilever framing that you see in the picture here. So you see how the wood framing that sticks out from the main structure, all of that rotted out because of water intrusion on the balconies, and eventually grew this little fungus. That's what all that black stuff is fungus, and deteriorated the wood. And with a little bit of weight, a little bit of partying, they ended up downstairs in a hurry, which is very unfortunate for the folks. This picture is of a collapsed balcony. That in this case, this was in New Jersey. It was a concrete balcony, and definitely not a good scenario. I've inspected quite a few balconies over the last few months, and folks, there's a lot of damage out there. So there's going to be we're going to cover some important stuff for property managers and building owners to be aware of. So let's get on with it. Let's get into some of this. Let's get into this topic. So the main goal is to ensure that you have a safe condition for tenants, and for those of you that live in an HOA, for the HOA owners that live on the property. The idea is that the property's going to be inspected. The balconies are going to be really scrutinized, and any repairs that need to be done will be forced to be done so that the balconies are safe, and accidents like the tragedy in Berkeley and in New Jersey can be avoided. So let's talk about who's impacted, what are the parameters of the law, which buildings are triggering the deal. So if you own an apartment building, SB721 affects you. If you're a condo HOA member, SB326, it affects you. And there's different criteria for which professional can perform the inspection, and who can do the work. So let's get into that right now. All right, so apartment buildings with 3 units or more. We're talking about just apartment buildings right now. All apartment buildings built before 2019 that have exterior elevated elements. So the reason that they said it that way is because they didn't want there to be an argument about what's a balcony, what's a catwalk, what are stairs. So the idea is that if you have an elevated element, right, where it's not part of the inside of the house or the building, and it is working on a cantilever system, that's what triggers that to be an elevated element. So that could be a patio, it could be a walkway, it could be staircases, it could be, balconies like in this picture. You can see that this balcony has no support on this corner. So it's relying on the cantilever strength of the wood framing coming out of the unit in this direction and then in this direction. So these are the parameters you're working under. So 3 units in apartment buildings built before 2019. Okay, and and then obviously that the unit is, the elevated element is above 6 feet off the ground. All right, HOAs. Any HOA that has 3 units or more and built before 2020. So that's even new stuff. Have to be inspected, and the same definition for elevated elements stands for this law too. So it'll include decks and balconies and walkways that have a cantilever like these balconies do here on the 3rd floor of this apartment or of this HOA. Now, if you're down here in the South Bay, we're in Torrance, right? So you'll see a lot of condos that are set up this way. There'll be 2 on a lot. So in order for this law to affect you, it's got to be 3 or more. So if you're 2 on a lot, it doesn't affect you. However, I have seen a tremendous amount of damage on these cantilevers that are in smaller units. If you're even on a tall and skinny here in Redondo or in Hermosa Beach, you really should be paying attention to your balconies to see if you have leaks, looking for mold, etc. We'll be posting a video of what to look for that is an indicator of leak detection. Okay, so let's talk about the process for getting your apartment compliant with this law. You'll need to hire a licensed architect or structural engineer or a professional inspector or a licensed contractor like we are. These professionals will perform they'll do a site visit. They'll do a site visit and they will do some testing and some visual inspections with like a bore scope. They may even peel back some stucco, etc., to take a look, and they'll write a very extensive report on their findings. You can expect to pay for this inspection anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 per building, and that's for say between 8 and 12 unit building. That's very common out there. Most people, if you're smart, you'll have a licensed engineer do it instead of having a contractor do it or an architect or anything like that. I would urge you to get an engineer to do it. Now, many of you call me, you read our content, you see our content, and you call me and you say you want to consider us to give you a price for the certification. We don't certify the decks, okay? That's not what we do. We will repair any damage that you have on the deck, but we won't do the certification process. So it's my recommendation that you use a local engineer in your area that's familiar with the buildings, that has done work in the area, and that you can gain from their benefit. If during the inspection process, the engineer or whomever you hire finds a hazardous condition, finds damage, finds evidence of damage, they have to turn you in. They're a mandated reporter to your local building department. Okay, so we're going to talk about what the right protocol should be, the right course of action. Anyhow, these certifications have to be done by 2025, and your inspections are going to have to take place every 6 years after that. Okay, the idea is that they're thinking that the balcony, even if you have a water leak, it's going to take 5 or 6 years for it to become dangerous. In some cases, it only takes 3 years. So, but that's the protocol. The protocol is you hire somebody, they perform a thorough inspection, they create a report, they certify your balconies, or they fail your balconies and report you. And that has to be done by 2025. So next year, 2024, is going to be a very, very busy year. You're going to have a very hard time trying to get somebody to give you a reasonable price to certify your building. So the sooner you start, the better. All right, let's talk about the condos. And by the way, if you have any questions during the time that I'm talking up here, please post them in the comments below. And, we respond to questions weeks, months after people post them because, these videos are up for quite some time. All right, so let's talk about the condos, the HOAs. For the condos, you must hire a licensed architect or structural engineer. You cannot hire a contractor like me to certify you, okay? If any repairs or any hazards are found and repairs need to be made, same thing. They're a mandated reporter. They're going to report your HOA as being deficient, and they'll, it's a whole deal for that. The first deadline for those inspections are going to be 2025, same as the apartment one, and you're going to require as an HOA to be inspected every 9 years, so you have a little bit more time in between inspection periods. By the way, in 9 years, if you don't service and you don't provide maintenance to those balconies, every 4 or 5 years, you will have damage. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that in another video on how to basically get your balconies and your walkways to last forever. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the elevated elements and not only what they are, but what are their shapes, what is the profile that that the state considers an elevated element to be. So in this picture, this is one of our inspections that I did in Long Beach, I believe. And you can see that the second story, this is an apartment unit. I think there's 3 units here. It's in Long Beach, and it has the entire front of the building is an elevated element. It's 6 feet above the ground. So this all is considered an elevated exterior element. These are some of the other samples that I've seen over this is probably a little bit older one. The one on the left is an HOA in Manhattan Beach that I went to go look at. That one's really bad shape. The one on the right is an El Segundo, and you can see that there's a little bit of damage at the base of the handrails. So water's definitely getting in through there. On the one on the left here, you can see that the top coat is pretty much gone. There's cracks and there's rust on the flashing there. All of that is indicative of water leaking in there. And by the way, if you were to get an engineer to inspect this as a formal SB inspection, they would fail you, okay? And the whole rigmarole of the process would start. These are some balconies that I went to go look at in Torrance. This is a perfect example of a cantilever balcony, right? So all of the framing sticks out from inside of the building. There's no posts. There's no type of support. It's a totally freestanding cantilevered balcony. And then you've got some rooftop decks. If the rooftop decks are cantilevered, meaning they stick out at all, they will also fall in place. Here in Redondo, and more so maybe in Manhattan Beach and Hermosa, there's a lot more rooftop decks. If you have a rooftop deck, you should definitely take very good care on your maintenance, because you're going to get a lot of sun, a lot of element exposure to it. Don't have a whole lot of plants on there. There's a whole, we're going to do a whole video on maintenance of your deck and stuff, so be on the lookout for that. If you haven't hit the little bell to be alerted, make sure you do that so you can be alerted when that video gets posted. Okay, this is an apartment building that I went to go inspect in, I think LA, it could be in Bellflower. Now you'll see that the stucco has a lot of discoloration. There's cracks. There's actually like chipping. The stucco's kind of coming apart over here. This is probably the worst. The worst of this building actually had a tremendous amount of damage. So the handrails were soft already. Actually, I thought you had more pictures of that. There's a lot of samples of so this is the outside platform of an apartment building connected to some stairs. It's definitely cantilevered out. It's definitely an elevated element because there's no physical support. There's no posts here, and this definitely has signs of damage. Got cracking stucco by the flashing. You've got some staining under here. There's some stucco popping out at the base. This is all indicative of leaking into the unit. So we'll cover this in more detail in another video that we'll post a link to. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what is the process. Initially, people will call me or they'll book an appointment or send us their information at baycitiesconstruction.com. We'll get you a call back within 24 hours of you submitting your information. And ideally, first things first, we'll have a conversation. If you have some pictures, you can email them to me, and you can also text them to me. We'll book once I have the picture. Once you send me the pictures, we'll book a call. We'll talk a little bit about what you got going on. Talk about. I'll give you some feedback based on the pictures that you send me, and I'll give you some ideas of pricing, some very ballpark type of ideas on pricing. I'll also point out any hazards that I see from the pictures that you sent me, things that I'll be looking for when I do an actual physical inspection. And if you decide that we're a good fit, if things sound good, we'll book a physical inspection. I charge $50 for that, and I'll go out there, take some pictures, take some measurements, assess the balconies if they have any damage. Based on my physical inspection, if you have damage, I'll probably very likely give you a price to do a limited demo and discovery, which I'll peel back stucco, things that are in the way, so that I could see the structural framing. If for sure we can determine that you have structural damage, you have rot, you've got an unsafe condition, etc., I'll bring in a structural engineer, and they will create a repair design for the structural damage. Once I have the repair design, I can give you a real-time price on what it's going to take to do the repairs. The engineer that designs the repair can also later certify the balconies. So this is kind of a good moment, because if you have the engineer that designed the repair, they're going to look at the progress of getting it fixed, and their liability is much less because they saw a big portion of the balcony, way more than you would see with a bore scope or with any of the other instruments that you're analyzing the framing. So it'll be less expensive to do the balcony certification once all the repairs are done if you use the same engineer to do that. I don't sell engineering services. This is a totally separate thing. I'm just going to make a recommendation to you based on engineers that I've worked with and that I feel are going to do a competent job, and that have the bandwidth to be able to turn the plans around quickly. Because once you open up the stucco and you find damage, sometimes the damage is tremendous. So really, it's important to start on getting it fixed. If we have to shore up the balconies or whatever so it's a safe condition, we've got to do that right away. So these are all dynamics that will occur depending on how much damage you have or how much deferred maintenance on the building has taken place. So that's basically the process. The process is, I'll do a physical inspection. I'll identify if you have any damage to be done. We'll assess how bad the damage is, and then we'll give you a price for the construction, and then we'll do the construction. We'll pull the permits, and we'll do the construction. We'll have the balcony safe. Then the engineer comes back, writes a report to certify the balconies, and then you're all clear. You're certified, and you're not going to have any problems. If you were to start the certification process with an engineer or another contractor and you have damage, they're going to report you. So don't do that. Assess the damage if you have any and get that handled. Get a good design done, get a building permit, do everything up on the straight and narrow, and just get it fixed. Don't try and cut corners. Don't try and paint the decks when there's damage. Don't try and cover stuff up with some crappy caulk. Don't do any of those things. That's just going to create more of a problem. If you try and cover it up and later on during the inspection they bore scope it and or they walk on the surface and it feels spongy because the plywood is all rotted out or the floor flexes or the handrails jiggle, you're not going to get certified. No one who is reputable is going to put their license or in my case, our contractor's license and insurance and all that on the line to pass a building owner. It's foolish to try and do that. And if you cover it up and worst case scenario, you cover it up and someone actually gets hurt and it wasn't fixed correctly, but you knew it was damaged because you did some cover up work. I mean, it's just a nightmare. Just don't do that. Don't do that. It's not a good approach. On a happier, more positive note, it's Alex's Trivia Corner time. All right, the trivia question for tonight is, how do Hawaiians say balcony or porch? What do the Hawaiians call that beautiful outdoor space? For the first viewer that gets this right, we are going to give you a $20 Starbucks gift card. So here are your options, guys. A, B, C, and D. Post your comments below. The first one to get it right is going to be the winner of the Starbucks gift card. I cannot pronounce that. Brian wants me to say it. I'm not even going to try. A, B, C, or D, folks. Alex's Trivia Corner. Let's go. Brian, do we have any questions from our amazing audience members?
Hey, Alex. Yeah, we got some questions here. Some people have some questions.
Hit me.
One of our viewers wants to know, why exactly do you need to do the repairs first without doing the certification and then doing the certification after?
I can't tell you how many people have told me, I just want to get it certified. I just want to get certified. I've had that comment from HOA board members. I've gotten that comment from property managers. Here's the problem, guys. Right now, if you've got damage on the balconies, right? Sorry, hold on. Right now, if you've got damage on the balconies, it's just up to you to fix it. If you call me and I go take a look at your place, you pay me $50, I go take a look at it, and I find that you have evidence of potential damage, right? You got fungus growing through the stucco, you got a soft floor, you got some deferred maintenance issue. I don't have to go and report you to the city. That's not I'm not legally mandated to do that. I will give you a game plan for getting it fixed. And in good conscience, that's what should be done. And I'll give you an assessment of what I think, how severe we're talking about here, right? Some balconies I've gone to, it's like, hey man, people should not be walking on that right now. And I'll tell you. And obviously it's up to you to take some action and get the ball rolling with an engineering design to get it fixed. Okay. So the main reason is, if you do this out of sequence, they will not pass the balcony. Okay. They will report you, and you'll have to deal with all of the red tape of failing the balcony inspection. So don't fail the balcony inspection. If you have damage, get it fixed. Preferably get it designed by the same engineer that's going to certify it later. Okay. these people that are you're gonna be approached by these one-stop shop people that'll do the certification and the fixing. Where's the checks and balances, guys? Where's the checks and balances? You know, you have to have one person that can identify the repairs and come up with a good design to fix it, and then somebody to do the work. And then, you know, the beautiful thing, like I said, is if the engineer that you're going to use to certify it down the road looks at the repair while it's being done, they feel confident that the repair got done, that it got done correctly, and you'll pay less for the certification than you would if you didn't do what I'm proposing that you should do. Okay, because if an engineer comes in cold and does the bore scope inspection and, you know, the other little gadgets that they're going to look at the balconies with, I mean, they're looking through the balcony through very small percentage of the total square footage of the balcony. If they come in when we have the balcony all opened up and they can see that the framing that was fungus infected got removed, and the subfloor that was soft and water damage got removed and replaced, then they're like, okay, cool. You know, our exposure to this balcony being tremendously damaged down the road is a lot less, right? Many of the engineers will choose to actually come out and look at us put up the waterproofing and just take a look and make sure that everything feels cool. They'll come in at the end once we're all done and take a look at everything, and, you know, make sure that they're comfortable with the current condition of the balcony before they sign off on it. So that is why you should do it the way that I'm proposing.
Awesome. Robert in Hermosa Beach says his house has a rooftop deck and 2 balconies. Does he need to worry about these balcony inspection laws?
He's got a single family residence, is that right?
At his personal house, yes.
Yeah, well, they don't apply to you, no. But if you allow your balcony to leak or your rooftop deck to leak and you get fungus infestation in there, I'm not talking about just mold that is, you know, kind of ugly and, you know, toxic mold or anything like that. I'm just talking about the fungus that really starts to deteriorate the structural framing. You're going to have tens of thousands of dollars of damage, okay? So it's really important that you maintain that. If you feel like you have a leak, if you have your paint flaking at the top of the surface of the rooftop deck or the balcony, get that assessed right away from a professional. Don't wait.
Fernando in Rancho Palos Verdes says he takes very good care of his house and his rental properties. Why would he need to worry about these getting his properties certified?
Well, if the building units are greater than 3 units, it's the law. You just have to do it. They will come down on enforcement eventually, and it's just a lot easier. You know, for those of you that don't know this, if a landlord does not comply with housing regulation, the municipality can actually take over and confiscate the rents for a period of time. I mean, that would be like, you know, if you let it go all the way, but that's the kind of like, I guess, the worst case scenario. And the only reason I know that is because we're dealing with a case where that actually occurred. So, you know, it's one of those things that you gotta stay on top of, and this is just part of the deal of doing business in California.
Awesome. Christine in Manhattan Beach says, what's the average cost of getting a balcony repaired?
Okay, that's a great question. I'm going to be putting out some more content about that because everybody wants to know what these things are going to cost. Look, the waterproofing component of this is probably about $6,000 to $10,000. Okay, but many people have damage, which means you got to break stucco, you got to deal with the handrails that are soft or wiggly. In many cases, you have to replace the handrail because it's not up to code. The minute that we take the handrail off, and let's say the handrail's not tall enough, or the distance between the rails are too far apart, then you can't use that. We got to start with a new one. So we're looking at the average cost for the totality of the repair is between $18,000 to $22,000. and that's for balconies that are about 100 to 160 square feet, something like that in size. That's what we're looking at in the last 30 days of quotes that I've been putting together.
Awesome. Marianne in Torrance wants to know, how long does it take after you've come out and inspected the balcony? How long does it take to get a quote?
So we're trying to get the quotes out the same week. At the most, it'll be 7 working days. So we're booking appointments on Mondays and Tuesdays, and we're trying to get the quotes out by Friday. Now, if you have a large HOA where you've got a lot of damage and stuff, obviously that's not going to be the case for those jobs. But for the people that have a couple balconies or rooftop deck and a balcony combination, I can probably get it done within same week turnaround time if I see you on Monday or Tuesday.
Bernice in Redondo Beach says she's spoken to a couple different contractors and she's gotten a lot of verbal quotes. Why would she need a quote versus an estimate?
Well, a quote, the way that we do it, a quote is a very detailed document. In our quotes, we include what type of a balcony it is, what is the proposed waterproofing solution that we're going to provide, some pictures of the existing space, what we found, a synopsis of our findings, and then ultimately the price for labor materials to get it fixed. So that's without structural damage. If you have some significant structural damage, we have to dig in a little bit more and get with the engineer and see what the game plan is going to be. And the reason I say this is it's not for any other purpose other than some balconies can be reframed with the same dimension lumber that they have. Others cannot. Others were framed when the building code wasn't so robust. So it takes more framing, larger dimension lumber, and maybe a bigger footprint of area of the building that needs to be replaced in order for the repair to be acceptable to the current building standards.
Stephen Carson has a very interesting question. He said he repaired his deck 5 years ago and it's leaking again. What can he do to avoid the same mistake again?
Well, it's very interesting. In the last 2 months, I've probably come across maybe 3 customers that had the decks done. One of them had the deck done 3 years ago. One was like 5 or 6, and the other one had it done maybe 10 years ago. So if there's no maintenance, if the homeowner or the property owner doesn't have a maintenance plan set up, you're gonna have leaks again. The key with balconies and rooftop decks is maintenance. You got to keep the maintenance up on it so that you don't incur very, very expensive damage.
Hey, we have a shout out here. Wendy in Huntington Beach said she's seen your billboards all over town. She said they look really cool.
Oh, well, thank you, Wendy. Yeah, we're trying to get the word out, trying to get folks to take care of their leaky balconies and decks and prevent tens of thousands of dollars in damages, and really stay ahead of these laws. There's going to be a lot of kind of get rich quick type contractors. You'll see contractors that have a 1 or 2 year license period, and all of a sudden they're experts in leak detection and stuff like that. And it's just going to be crazy next year. It's going to be. I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's and anytime you have new laws like this and you have big mandates, you're going to get people coming out of the woodworks that don't know what they're doing, claiming to be experts.
Jacob in Santa Monica wants to know, what's the best time to get your balcony repaired? He says they're expecting a lot of rain this upcoming season.
Yeah, we've been getting quite a few calls at the office with people that are worried about the rains, and rightfully so. We've had a few pretty dry years up until last year, and it hasn't been as much of an issue. But now that we're getting rains and we're getting accumulation of rains, many people don't have gutters over the balconies and stuff. So a lot of the roof, the water that lands on the roof ends up on the balconies, And if there's cracks and deficiencies in the waterproofing system, you're gonna get the leaks. So it's definitely one of those things that ideally you'd like to do the repair in the summertime, right, when there's no rain. But if you've got a leak and it's coming in your house, it's time to do something. Most people don't realize that the waterproofing component of the install is done in 4 or 5 days. So we can, if you have structural damage and it's it's a big disaster zone, it's going to take a lot longer. But if you just have like a deck that looks weathered and you basically maybe need a new coat on top, you can get that done in 4 or 5 days. It's actually pretty fast.
Marlon in West LA says he's spoken to different contractors, and some of them offer inspections with infrared cameras. Others offer inspections with like boroscope cameras. He wants to know, what type of inspections do you offer?
Well, we're not certifying decks, so I'm not going to do a boroscope. I'm not going to do any of that. What I'm going to do is a physical inspection, a visual inspection. I'm looking for the areas where water leaks. Okay, water leaks occur at the base of doors. I'm looking for flashing that's got rusting. I'm looking at the drip edge, the flashing at the edge of the balcony. I'm looking for rusting there. I'm looking at the bases of the handrails. I'm checking to see if they have any room. When I walk on the balcony, I don't want to see any flecks. If I feel like the floor is spongy and it looks like there's water getting under there, obviously if you have cracks, that type of thing, all of that is indicative of water leaks. The minute that you see something like mold growing, stucco coming off, and we'll have a series of pictures to show the viewers of what are the common indicators of water leaking. Anytime I see that, then it's time to peel back a little bit more of that area and inspect to see if you've got any structural damage, because you definitely have some type of water intrusion if you have those signs.
Awesome. We got one last question here from Maribel out in Long Beach. She wants to know, do you need permits for balcony repairs? If so, how much will it cost?
Yes, you need permits for balcony repairs. Depending on the totality of the repair, you're probably going to pay anywhere between $300 and maybe even $1,200 for the building permit. If you have structural plans drafted, there'll be a plan check fee, probably $800 to the city to check the plans, and then building permits on top of that. If you're only doing waterproofing, if you're one of those people that is a maintenance freak, a maintenance fanatic, fan of good maintenance, then you do not have to get a building permit. You only have to get a building permit if you're doing a repair, if you're doing a structural repair. If you're just waterproofing the system and installing a waterproof system, you don't have to get building permits for that. Guys, if you want to learn more about waterproofing and other types of residential construction, please go to baycitiesconstruction.com. If you haven't done so, make sure you like and subscribe, leave a comment. Makes the show fun, makes it interactive, and we always love answering questions after the fact. If you haven't done so already, check out our last show, episode 58, and we talked about some beautiful fixtures by Hans Grohe. Guys, follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and be part of the community. If you need some help with a project, please go ahead and contact our offices. Next year is going to be our 20th year in business. We have a team of pros here to help you. Take advantage of the decades of knowledge that our team had. My name is Alex with Bay Cities Construction, reminding you, you don't need a contractor, you need a team of pros. My name's Alex Rodriguez, reminding you don't need a contract. You need a team of pros.